You can tell who the mainstream media's side is when you read the headline just below. Engineer out at Google after anti-diversity memo. Something tells me they didn't bother to read it. Shall we find out?
But do you think, so do you agree, like, Mary Catherine, I think it was essentially saying, America's great for all these various opinions, diversification of thought, that was maybe wrong for Google, despite the fact that maybe we don't all agree with what this guy said, he's allowed to say it.
We don't all agree with what he just said, but you just said maybe diversification of thought is a really good thing, although I just don't agree with it. Some people's thoughts just should be in a bubble and be put away. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. How about you just move aside, because clearly you didn't even bother reading the memo. He said nothing about America in the first place.
Do you think he was allowed to say that, where he's essentially saying, well, I don't really like women anywhere near a computer, and should he have been fired for it?
Women shouldn't be allowed near a computer? He didn't say that anywhere in that Goole Manifesto. I read the whole thing, all 10 pages. There was nothing in there that said women don't belong next to a computer. Where the hell are you pulling that out of? Your ass? Because clearly you didn't read it.
Liz.
I find it interesting that he felt comfortable sharing this with people at the company in the way that I felt that it was interesting, when stuff came out of the culture at Uber that was, enabled systemic sexual harassment, and the sort of things that I think a lot of men felt like they could say and do were not appropriate. I do wonder what kind of culture exists at Google that made a white man who's in a senior position, engineer at one of the most, one of the biggest tech companies in the world, feel threatened by a few diversity programs, and then want to share that with and write 10 pages about it, and fear it and it have leaked in the way that it had, and think that there'd be no consequences.
Seriously, did you not just hear what you said right there? Why would a white man feel threatened by a few diversity programs? Maybe because the diversity programs tell him that white men aren't allowed. We need more women. We need more minorities. So the straight white man, you're screwed. Maybe that might have something to do with it. I don't know, just a guess.
But isn't a piece of this, Mary Catherine, this is directed to you, where this software engineer, he had hiring power. I mean, he could impact the empowerment of women. And again, I go back to, paraphrasing. This is a guy who's basically saying, I don't like women around computers.
Basically, you're paraphrasing and lying about paraphrasing, because he did not say that. He did not say anywhere in there, I don't want women near computers. He did say that women choose different roles, typically, than men. Technical roles in particular are usually picked by men and not by women. This is fact. You guys have problems with facts. I'm sorry, but it sucks to be you. Perhaps you should move along and complain about something else.
Whether it's peer reviews.
I actually, Brooke, and I often disagree with you in like a very jovial way, and I just totally disagree with the characterization that that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
He wasn't saying, and that's why I disagree with the reaction to this. If it were what you were saying, I would be more on board with Liz's point of view. But look, I think we're saying, look, this is a valuable conversation to have, and I agree. One of the things that this person was bringing to the table was that perhaps part of diversity is ideological diversity as well. And ironically, and no one seems to recognize the blinding irony of this, he was saying one of the problems with Google is that we are perhaps in this like ideologically insular bubble that is so insular that people like me feel silenced and don't want to bring our opinions to the forefront. And then wait a second. In response to that, his dissenting opinion, it was leaked to punish him, and then he was fired for it having been leaked.
So how should Google...
And thanks to you for getting it quite right, I think. Mary Catherine Ham, I appreciate that. He got fired for exposing an ideological bubble inside Google. That is pretty much the issue. Now, from a leadership perspective and an organizational psychology perspective, this is a bad move for Google. You've now put yourself in the forefront of saying that if there is an ideological bubble at Google and you don't want to address it, you're just going to fire anybody that's a dissenting opinion. Several scientists have agreed with them and said what he put in that Goole Manifesto was actually accurate. It's backed by scientific evidence, and there's nothing in there that's really controversial. This is scientific fact. That's the problem. The ideological bubble does not like scientific fact when it disaligns with the diversity and inclusion mantra that says we need more women, more minorities, and that's all there is to it. We don't care if they're not as smart or not as good as anybody else. We just want them there and to have more voices. Now, it would be nice if they could hire people that want the job, that are also technically inclined, and I'm sure they'd have quite a few there. If you look at Google's demographics currently, they are 70-30. They're a tech company that aligns with the data. So not only did they fire this person for ideological reasons, they opened up themselves for a lawsuit. And as the way business goes, they've basically shot themselves in the foot. This is a horrible idea, and they should have not done it. In fact, maybe they should have addressed the issues instead. They didn't have to make it go viral.
I've completed my work. Time for me to go.